What's going on, y'all? So here's a video about Shuhei Yoshida spilling the beans. We know I dropped my Dreamcast video react about that, but this is going to highlight something different from a different point of view and to go into this a different way. We also have Alex's take on this as well too, so we're gonna highlight that. Um, so let's go. Let's start off by reading this first and seeing what he said. So he says Shuhei Yoshida says that Japan Studio no longer exists because PlayStation First Party wanted big system selling games and did not want the AA size games that Japan Studio were good at making. And first and foremost, when I see this, I feel like this is a stupid idea, and this is led by somebody that is a power-headed fool. And I think you get what I mean because you're saying that you don't want balance and you just want to rush into power. And I think this same type of mentality, like people like Jim Ryan, has also led Sony on the path of everything we did to get to this point. I've said this before. Let's just throw that all off the rails and let's gas rush. That's why I said, because you know they're gas cannons. So yeah, gas rush right off a cliff or a Grand Canyon, because that's exactly what he did. So let's put everybody, even people who should not be making live service games. This is how you know it's like, what is going on here? How did this even happen? Right? It's when you realize there's political invasion because nobody could be this stupid. You know what I mean? So there's kind of like some hijacking here. Let's politically gas rush off a cliff. You saw the change in PlayStation big time. Then you saw the abandonment of Sony Japan. Then you saw the abandonment of Japanese games, and it just felt like a Western dog and pony show. And this Sony people did not like because the original Sony did not do these type of things. Not to say that I liked them way more back then. I definitely did like them more back then. But at least there was some balance, at those times, right? So we kind of see that with here. Like when it comes to AA games, I think definitely now more than ever, with games being more expensive, it's good to find that balance. And if you can get some hits with that, you could make some massive profit. And then there's a double-edged benefit there between the gaming community and the producer and the developer. So yeah, whoever said that is wrong because Microsoft's even doing that now with Game Pass games. Some games that drop on there, they're kind of like that AA experience. Sometimes you need that to take you to a AAA. You want to just be power headed and say, screw indie, screw AA, screw everything that got you to AA, and let's just do that. That's toxic, terrible leadership. So, no. The Japanese creators we worked with came up with some really creative and interesting things. hmm But it always ended up being AA size. There's also the reason why Japan Studios disappeared after I was no longer president of Worldwide Studios, and the Westerners got control. And how did that end up turning out? All the OGs left. Position you knew died, got sacrificed for all that, and it all ended up failing. Yeah, somebody can't see, right? At that time, Japan Studio was a team that was good at making AA titles. In that case, it probably didn't match with what the company and first party, who was leading first party after him, see, wanted. So this should tell you, like, when things behind the scenes change, things on the surface manifest differently, right? It's all right there in front of y'all's face. So, and there's a full Japanese document right here that you can come read if you want to look at everything here, which I'm not going to go into, but I want to share that with you guys. We're going to go over to what Alex has to say now about this. And this is kind of what I want to talk about just in this general. So this should give you an idea because you could read something like this and see how mistakes have went farther down the rabbit hole. Right there, y'all.
Imagine if you have a 5 to 6 year cycle for game dev, but in between those 5 to 6 years, you have 2 years in between of small AA games filling those gaps between the large AAA or quadruple A games, taking up that major space. You would have a consistent flow of games all the time. You wouldn't have to worry about anybody else. And instead of just keeping Japan Studio open and active to make those AA games, to have a proper budget and scope and size and actually market those games correctly, what they do instead is they shut down Japan Studio and then go out and spend all that money to third-party money hat other games off other platforms. They could have just made their own games.
Yeah. That's the difference in power and intelligence and wisdom and unity between Nintendo and Sony. Basically what he just said right there. This is why they were so afraid of Call of Duty, because they weren't producing their own type of games like that. And they went so much to lock away third-party games. This is why I try to tell you they're the biggest vampire in the industry. And what I mean by that is they look for shortcuts and easy profit. They screw over other people. They screw over other communities. Just like they screwed over Sega way back then. And I've said that in my video with Dreamcast Guy that I recently did to just succeed. And that's success to Sony and to their pony base. And they think that that's amazing. They're somehow, like, you have some people really believe in Sony as the best first party in-house developers and they have the best first party games. And it's like, you're out of your damn mind. They do have some good games, but they don't even come close to Nintendo's resume. What I mean, all the way from back to NES, all the way back to now. You want to compare totality. What have you done for the gaming industry in totality? When I say what you have done, when I say Sony, what have you published and developed? When I say Nintendo, what have you published and developed? Microsoft, Xbox, what have you published and developed? Right, Sega, what have you published and developed? Right, because when we talk about them, it's what have you done? And when people really see that full resume, they start running away in the PlayStation world. They want to grab third-party games because they realize, holy shit, yeah, damn. So it was just a bunch of other people's games. And when they had opportunities to even make their in-house better, they did stupid shit like this that he's talking about, that I'm talking about, and other people are talking about. It's like, why would you do that? You had the opportunity to go revive so many IPs and have a stronger in-house and an amazing generation. Could have been better than a PS4 generation. And you fucked it all up. That's where you realize it's like, how could you even do this? Let me tell you something. Politics.
And then they would have been fine. But they shut down Japan Studios to make Team Asobo, or whatever the hell they want to call them, to then make Astrobot, but Astrobot only sold 1 million copies. That's not fixing the problem. The article continues by saying Japan Studio was part of the most lauded titles in PlayStation's catalog. Everybody's Golf, Ape Escape, Loco Roco, Knack, Patapon, Gravity Rush, and many more. While other studios might pick up these franchises like Bandai Namco has done with the new Everybody's Golf Hot Shots title, some of these games are now co-signed to history. And again, they're not wrong. Like I said before, Patapon 1 and 2, Everybody's Golf Hot Shots, and Freedom Wars are now being put on multiple platforms. The problem is that now we have so many other games, like they said, co-signed to just being historical things. Look, I mean, like, I do this every time. You know, I go out here and I do the same thing every single time. I don't know why I have to do this. It's honestly ridiculous. Because literally, Rogue Galaxy, they could bring that back. It's theirs. They own it. Like,
it's a good game.
Dark Cloud 1 and 2, hello, it easily could be done right there. And Metal Gear Solid 3 stuck on the PlayStation 3. The only way to get it off is by emulating it. There's so many games that are stuck to consoles that are literally dead, that have no more support, that you can't pull off anymore, that the only way to get them is through emulation or going off eBay and selling your left nut to try and get the actual game at a normal, decent price. But
yeah, they had Siphon Filter. Still haven't done anything with that, right? Could have made a next-gen Ape Escape. They didn't do anything with that. You got Jet Moto. They didn't do anything with that. I mean, the amount of PS3 games, too, like we talked about with Warhawk, with Resistance, with Killzone, right? And they just don't do anything with it. It's just kind of sitting there. They have a lot of IPs that they can really dig into and make next-gen games out of, or just from the ground up, even one-to-one remakes, right? But they're not really doing that. They're taking stupid risks that literally make no sense mathematically, logically, or just in any sense, period. Like the balance, it's almost like you had this balance that you were doing that got you to where you were at the beginning of PS5, then you just literally went way off balance. Remember how good Ridge Racer was with Bandai? That's Sony had going too. I mean, they have a lot of IPs that are just sitting there.
But no, they don't want to do that. They don't want to keep the studio open. They don't want to keep making games. Look at the fact that Saga Frontier 2 was announced by Square Enix recently. And honestly, I can't wait for Xenogears to be redone as well for the PC and other platforms. But the fact that this game...
Yeah, if Monolith Soft allows it, because they're with Nintendo. Xenoblade, if y'all, I'm telling you, series is amazing. The Xeno series is god tier.
This random ass Saga Frontier game, a game that sold like
Yeah.
2 copies. I was one of the people that actually bought this game, that had needed it.
I beat part one and I loved it so much. Part two, they made more anime cartoon oriented, and I own that too on PlayStation 1. Classic games, by the way, amazing games. Like, it's a game to where like you could just do random attacks and learn abilities out of nowhere. I love Saga Frontier. Like, man, that was when SquareSoft, who, like I said, Soft is not with them no more. Monolith Soft is now with Nintendo, and they have the Xeno series. Um, and they turned it into Xenoblade, which is their own Final Fantasy, which is just as good. And like I said, if y'all haven't checked it out, man, even the recent Xenoblade Chronicles X just came out. Absolutely phenomenal series. Now all four of those games are just meta peak. 88 metas. The other ones are Xenoblade Chronicles 192 meta. You know what I mean? They're up there like that. Like, there are fantastic games. And X is an online game, so you'll be able to play that on Switch too. So you just wait, if anything. But Saga Frontier, really good stuff.
Actual Pocket PlayStation to play correct to get other skills from is going around and being remade for PC and multiple platforms, and it's selling. People are buying it because they're like, bro, nostalgia. 30 years ago, what a great game. I can't wait to play it. I bought a copy even though I own it physically. Why would PlayStation literally do this to themselves?
Yeah, and like when you want to give other people that are experienced too, that are growing up around the same time you grew up on a PlayStation console or whatever, you'll say, "Hey, man, there's a remake of this game. You can now get the experience that I had, but now with better graphics in this present moment." You have that crowd that can buy it. You have the nostalgia crowd that can buy it, and then people that in general that have just may run into it. Like, definitely when you have all these platforms now, you could sell way more than you could easily back then. 300,000 sales back then was a big deal. It really was. People were happy with that. I don't think people remember those days.
And we see the same sort of mentality happen over and over again. The closing of Japan's studio. Jim Ryan talking about why would anybody want to play old games. The fact that the PlayStation 5 doesn't have backwards compatibility.
Makes
Even
sense.
software emulation would have been ideal for that console. I would have bought a PS5 if it had software capability to actually run my PS1 and PS2 games.
Yeah.
I don't even need PS3 emulation. I have a PS3. It's still young enough to even be able to find pretty easily. But PS1 and PS2, these systems and these consoles are going to crap out at some point. Capacitors will blow, and I'll have no other choice but to actually play those games besides trying to find one and fix it myself. They literally hate their history. I feel like that's what it is. I feel like PlayStation literally hates where it came from. It hates its creativity. It hates where it was born from. It hates that it was actually trying to go out there and do something different and fun and weird. I feel like it honestly almost even hates their own Japanese heritage of the kinds of games that Japanese players have always wanted and people in the West have always loved for Japanese games to play.
It's a good statement. I like that because I've been telling people about that for years. How many times have they banned in Japan? How many times do they not have a real identity? And they're supposed to be a Japanese corporation. That's where they started. But when you look at them now, you look at the past decade and a half, it's like, what is this? It's all full Western movie nonsense. Not to say that there's anything wrong with those games, but there's no balance there. There's no Japanese. That's why Nintendo is 90% dominant in Japan. Japan will tell you themselves they overlook PlayStation. The only time they're even getting on it is for something like Monster Hunter or, big games like that. But if that was on the Switch too and that was out already, oh man, they wouldn't have sold nowhere near as much. But the point is that, yeah, what he's saying is 100% correct about the Japanese identity. Them like just burning down their history and gas rushing. And then with Jim Ryan, that's what happens when the foreign takeover started happening and politics coming in. Of course, because who are they mainly attacking? What races? Caucasian race and the Japanese race. And you kind of see this attack on those cultures of lately, big time, politically. The invasion of just wanting to tear down and ruin everything that you cared about. Everything that's got built up. It's the same pattern everywhere if you look at it. What happened when the new Japanese leader got in the leadership at Sony? Who's all getting the firings? California, over in the West. They know what's going on. You know what I mean? They've been kept in the dark for a long time. Sure, Yoshida said the same thing. Ever since that stuff started happening. You know what I mean? Japan got screwed over. And you know what they want to attack. So it's not a matter of are you coming in to help it out? Oh no, you're coming in to destroy everything until you realize it and get it the hell out. So yeah, good talk here by Alex. And isn't it nice now since from January all the way now almost into to April, how much has been spilled out in the industry by Shuhei Yoshida, by Sean Layden, and others. The cat's out the bag now, y'all, so we have our answers. If you are very good at detective work, which I have to do an amazing job at doing, I like Alex's detective skills as well, you can kind of put all this together and get your answer. It's right there out on the internet. The information is there now. So at this point, if people still want to play that game and defend Sony, I really don't know what to tell you because it's like, do you want them to do better or do you want to keep accepting what's in front of you? That's my thing. All right, y'all. Peace. Have a great day. Ponies, sit down. Later.